All right, and we are live with Common Chat with myself, Solana/Sherry, and Brian Fox. Today's conversation is going to be about should Muslims be banned? But I want everyone in this conversation, listening to this conversation, to know that we feel that we should be able to have conversation about anything, that there shouldn't be a topic that we cannot cover civilly, that we should be able to discuss the issues that are going on around us without feeding the fear. And so we want everyone to know that while this conversation is going to be controversial, we also want you to understand that we're still going to get along after this conversation is long over, that we don't hold it personal, that we should be able to have any topic of conversation without feeling it is about ourselves and just about the issues that are going on and not holding it. And then later on, having argument about it. That's just unnecessary. And that, my friends, is what feeds the energy. When you can't have a conversation without getting upset, when you can't have a conversation without taking it personal, that's what's called feeding the energy. Oh, excuse me, feeding the energy. And so let's get started with this conversation because, again, we have been hearing in the news all sorts of comments made by people such as Donald Trump. And again, he's running for president of the United States. And so these things are going to be talked about, and they're being talked about every day on the news. But we have our own little spin that we want to throw in there too, as well. You know, I think everybody's voice should be heard. So when Donald posed the question, rather, he didn't even pose the question. He just put it out there that we need to ban all Muslims from coming into the United States. And so since then, it has been a flurry of death threats put on Mr. Trump. Even people such as the group Anonymous are starting to put threats out there. There's other groups that are calling for his assassination because he spoke something that actually has been done before. Because when you are at war, you simply cut your enemy off. And so let's bring on Brian so that he can start this discussion, opposing and bringing in the idea that most, people in the United States are actually thinking, and Donald Trump is speaking.
Well, good morning, everybody. But yeah, to further Salona's point, which is my mom, by the way, so I'm gonna call her mom because Salona is just weird. But
Go ahead.
you know, when Donald Trump first put out there, I think along with most of his supporters uh, and Americans in general that are feeling the fear, like myself and anybody else, when he first said we need to ban Muslims from entering the United States. Now, again, to clarify what he was saying, he needs he's speaking of anybody that's not a U.S. citizen that is a Muslim to not be allowed to come into the country. And first initial thought is, yeah, absolutely. We're at war with jihadists and people across the country or across the world that hate American values, hate American quality, and they want to come into this country and infiltrate. And there are sleeper cells here already. We don't need to add to the number of sleeper cells that are here. That the reality is we're all endangered, and by allowing Muslims and people that hate Americans to continue to enter the country only deepens and furthers that danger. So yeah, absolutely. My first instinct is, yeah, ban them all.
I know, but I feel like you're just feeding into the more propaganda that has been put on us for centuries. And I have to say centuries because over 250 years ago, our Declaration of Independence, taking us away from the rule of England, as well as our Constitution, was set up so that we could, allow people to come in. Let's not forget, that we Americans. Kind of took over this country. That, and again, people want to say, well, you're talking about an invasion. And, I'm sorry, but isn't that what we're talking about here too? It's about as someone coming in to our land and, starting to bring their war over here on us. just because they think that we are worthy, because we don't believe in their religion. It's kind of the same thing that we did to the Indians that live here to this day, that thank God we did not wipe them all out. And so, it's the propaganda. That's what bugs me. It's all propaganda. And so when you start feeding into that fear, you're just causing yourself more angst and more, what's the word, to be, oh my God, the word just went out of my head. When you are just paranoid. Paranoid. That's the
Well,
word.
and I think the reality is most of us do feel paranoid. I mean, and it's so easy to get caught up in that fear. And generally speaking, for those that know me, like yourself, you know that I'm not a prejudiced person. You know that I don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
And when I do, I generally try to catch myself because we are humans. We all naturally start judging people by their appearance or by their attitude on first impressions, and I personally haven't had a run-in with any Muslim or anybody that is anti-American. I've never experienced it firsthand, so I only see what the media allows me to see, and that's one of those things. So that first instinct that I get is the fear that's being put out there, and you can't help it. So when it comes to fear, you've always taught me to resist and acknowledge and don't feed into your fears, combat them. So that's one of those things where if I'm not going to combat the fears, or if I'm going to combat the fears, I need to acknowledge what it is that I'm afraid of. Why am I afraid of it? Can I continue on without being afraid of it? And that's something that I've been working on, that so heartily is okay. So is there a legit reason to be afraid of Muslims? And let's clarify here.
Hmm.
Labeling in a situation like this, and when you're a presidential candidate, your words are powerful. Each word and each label has a definition that can be taken literal. There is no, political incorrect or correctness about it. You have to be political correct, and Donald Trump is not, and he's saying things that he doesn't truly mean. And he's not saying let's ban all Muslims because in reality, that's not a that's not a reality. You can't ban Muslims. It's so easy for me or you to lie about what our religion is. So if you're going to ban somebody based on religion, which is the debate right now that's going on in this country, is should we ban Muslims? You can't do that because for one, we are a open country to all religions.
We
That's
are a
one.
melting pot.
Two,
Hmm.
no, you just can't because it's so easy to lie on paper saying, no, I'm not a Muslim, or no, I'm not a Christian, or yes, I'm a Christian. It's so easy to lie about religion. It's subjective. We don't have a badge that says I am, I
Right.
mean, so when he's saying this, does he mean let's ban everybody that's from Syria? Let's ban everybody that's from Afghanistan and Iraq? Do we ban the civilians of the countries that we are fighting at this point?
Again, it's terminology.
Exactly.
Because he is saying ban all Muslims when in our official terms, when you are running this country, you do have the right to ban a country, one that you are at war with. So for him to say all Muslims, he's lumping together all Islamic nations. And you simply can't do that. Like Brian's saying, I mean, there's a video going around YouTube right now that has a variety of different people, black, white, Muslim, rather Islamic even, because I'm sorry, that's another country over there. It's not just that they're all Muslim even in that particular country. But over here in the United States, we've got, all races that fall that Muslim, but all Muslims are not all terrorists. I mean, that's the big difference. But then my point of view is really what's a terrorist? Because we, kind of came over here and did that to the Indians, what we can call terrorist actions, by, coming over and invading and taking over and trying to wipe them out. And then we did it again during World War II when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The United States gathered up all of and unfortunately, anyone who looked Asian was gathered up and put in concentration camps. And the country Japan was banned from coming into the United States. These are active wars, actions that you can take during war, as a country, so it's like, it really just, like, I boil up inside when I start to think, and I'm, still try to have that calm conversation about it, because people just lump together everything, when it comes to a topic or conversation, and or an event that's happening. It's like not everyone, in this, world is a terrorist that's a Muslim. And so we have to, be very, very careful, when we start talking about this, as far as, what we're talking about. Are we talking about a religion, or are we talking about someone's radical views, on what that religion is? And then we can even take it a step further and say, well, how did these guys over there living in huts and dirt and, shacks come up with all the money to, be so powerful and to be able to infiltrate?
Yeah, the conspiracies can run wild, and then when you really start to analyze it, you start to feel humbled again. You realize that you are a victim of the people, that are on the TV and the media, and you have to listen to what they have to say, because they're the only ones speaking to you about it, and they're the only ones showing you edited clips of presidential candidates and politicians. So it's subjective, and I can speak, about this, because if we want to bring religion into the matter, I identify myself as a Christian because I believe that Jesus walked this earth 2,000 years ago. I believe that he died for my sins. In my heart, that's what I feel. However, I am not a Christian to Christians because I don't follow biblical terms and I don't go to church on Sunday. So I'm not a dedicated Christian, if you will. But at the same time, I wear the badge of Native American and follow our Cherokee, ancestor line. I am open-minded to every religion that's out there. I understand that there's multiple paths to God, and that there's different spiritual aspects to every culture, and that everybody is aiming for the same thing, for a higher power. Everybody's going to our Creator, and everybody thinks that they're in the right or in the wrong. And I can tell you right now that I know Muslims. I know Muslims that are friends of mine that are here where I live, that I have associated with since I was growing up, and that are customers of mine, that are people that are on social media that we speak to. And the Muslims that I know are not okay with what's going on with the jihadists. They do not support groups like ISIS. It's unnatural to their religion. It's something that they're fighting. They're dealing with extremism in their own culture. And I think one of the things that we need to remember is that, right now, jihadist and radical Muslim groups are heightened in the media. We can't forget that. The focus is there. We've had three, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, jihadist terrorist attacks on U.S. soil since 2001. In between the lines, we have had radical groups, hate groups. We've had extreme Christians and other different groups that are extremists within that have also created terrorism on our soil. And the focus needs to be the fact that it's terrorism, regardless of the religious group or religious founding or their motive of religious beliefs in that terrorist attack. It's still terrorism. We need to remember that that's not the majority of this planet. That's not the majority of society. They don't represent us as a majority, us as a people, not just American citizens, but the people of this planet, the people of Earth. These radicalists do not represent us. They represent some of the core evil that's within us, regardless if they're supported by governments or supported by something that's of a higher entity that we even realize. They don't represent the majority. So the labeling needs to be a little more scarce, a little more careful. We can't label them Muslims. We can't label them Christians. We have to label them terrorists. These are terrorists. If they are condoning terroristic acts to promote fear and to back a political standing or of anything of radical nature, and they're willing to create terror to support that is terrorist. So yeah, we have jihadists and we have people that have declared war on U.S. citizens and our way of life over here. We have since we've been a country. And the thing we got to remember is our country was built on rebels 200 years ago that fled the countries that they were coming from, like England, came over here and wiped out complete genocide of the Native American society here, which weren't called Native Americans. They were called different cultural groups. There was different nations here that were also going through their own demons and their own wars and their own terrorists. And we just added to the fire when the invasion began here. Terrorists and that nature has been around since human nature has been around. So
definitely. For thousands of years, we can say that there have been so many people that have infiltrated, invaded, taken over. Like you said, it's happened over and over and over and over and over again. Civilizations have been wiped out, and replaced with new civilization. Those that survived. And carried on. And that's what really kills me about everyone talking about this being the end of the world. Because, this just, I'm sorry. I've been hearing that since I got, old enough to hear, what other people were saying. And it's just an over and over repetitive fear. It's a loop that we have been just repeating over and over and over again with each generation. And like Brian said, since we became a country, the United States of America, and again, we were in operation before we became the United States of America. There was 6 presidents, I believe, before George Washington, who was coined, the first president of the United States of America, meaning that he was the first of a new thought pattern coming in, a new infiltration, if you will, coming in. Because again, you think that the Queen and everybody over there in England just laid down their swords and didn't benefit from the takeover that happened here in America, you're sadly mistaken. As a matter of fact, some of your income taxes that you pay today, a percentage of that goes to England, because that was signed in the treaty that stopped that war from continuing. Was that they had to come to a resolution that England would still benefit from the lands here, and they have been for the last several hundred years now. And so, people don't even know our true history on this land or on this planet. You only know your most basic history that was written by the victors. Again, when things are written by the victors, they're a little swayed. And so we don't want that to happen again with the events that are going on today. Because it's just going to be a repetitive loop of fear that will continue for who knows how many more generations if we don't stop today, and stop the propaganda from really infiltrating our own energy and, taking over and giving us thoughts of racism and dividism. I've actually had several friends who moved away from California because they didn't like the way things were going. That they didn't, it wasn't about, the homeless problem or the crime issue. For them, it was that they didn't like the way they started to feel, because they started to feel discrimination. They started to feel racist, not for themselves, for their lifestyle, but for those that were around them. And they just couldn't tolerate it anymore. They got to that point where it was just like, no more. I can't live like this. So they moved somewhere where the population was not even a quarter, an eighth of what California is. But the point here is that, we can all feel the energy and the vibration that's happening when, disruption begins to happen in your world. It's like I was, telling them that I don't blame them for leaving. And they want everybody to come now to where they're living now because they say, oh, it's so much nicer. The energy is so much better. And yes, it is a little, economy wise, it's better for them because they lived in California. But that's not what it's about. It's about the peace that they feel where they are right now. And I think that we all need to get to the point where we're in that peace, and we try and hold that peace regardless of what's going on around us, because it's going to just be a repetitive issue again and again and again if we just continue the same cycle of fear. And that's what all the propaganda is geared towards. And I've always said that I think that Trump is a distraction right now. He's a distraction from what's really going on in the world, because if people were to hear every day about the wars going on over in the Islamic lands, we would be just horrified if we were to hear it. We don't want to hear it, actually. Our energy programming is such that when we hear it, we're just like, oh, enough of the Muslim stuff. I've heard that. Enough of this Muslim stuff. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
I've
what?
heard that too. It's
Yeah,
everybody is buying into the propaganda and the energy play that's being dealt with and in front of us. And you know, I feel compelled to remind everybody this has always been a reality where we've been dealing with jihadists. And you know, yes, we had that attack in San Bernardino, California. I hope I said that
Bernardino.
right.
Bernardino.
You know, and there's going to be controversies out of that. There's going to be conspiracy theories, like there always is, that pop from that. But the thing that we need to remember is that you know these events are designed to create fear, to create terror amongst all of us, because we need to be in that state of mind in order to support something that's unnatural, or in order to support a political you know, agenda. You know, and I don't have any exact examples for what I mean, but at the same time, we just need to remember that we are brothers and sisters. You know, when the Catholic Pope addresses Muslims, he doesn't call them jihadists. He doesn't call them Muslim haters. He doesn't look at them in an evil light. He calls them my Muslim brothers. You know, when the Pope says that, that's important to remember because he represents the lead of the Catholic Church. He's loved by all Catholics, and he's calling Muslims his brothers. You know, the reality is we are brothers and sisters of this planet. Every animal, every plant, every person, every culture, every country, if you have a heartbeat and you are walking on this planet, you are my brother, you are my sister. And that's something that we need to remember. You know, that can't get away from
Mm-hmm.
the nature of who we are. You go into any one of these countries, it's not that they hate united people. They don't hate united individuals like ourselves. They hate the United States government. They hate
Exactly.
the infiltration that they've been seeing. They don't understand it. And quite frankly, I don't think the majority of us do either. Since World War II, we have set up bases all over the world. I don't fully understand why. I'm told that it's to protect my freedoms and to protect my country, and that might be the case, but it is kind of peculiar. I don't see a Russian base here. I don't see a Japan base or a China base here on U.S. soil, nor do I think we would tolerate it. You know, so it's interesting to
You're
see
right. Just embassies.
the hypocritical agenda that's being put out there politically. You know, I'm not a political activist. I just watch it as a U.S. citizen, and I'm somebody that sits back and is like, "What the heck?" You know, and you know, it's funny. Before all of this popped up with Donald Trump, and before all of this popped up with the terrorist attacks that just happened in California, I was sitting in my house feeling good. You know, I actually started feeling an uplift and positive energy. I started feeling united with people, and I started hearing the society around me waking up, and here we are. And this is an attack on us as people. This everything that we're going through is an attack on me, on you, on your family. You know, and it's an attack on fear. It's on an attack. It's an attempt to control your mind and to control your actions on a daily basis. So we need to stand up. We need to stand up and realize, hey, hold on a second. I'm in charge of this body. I'm in charge of this surrounding. I need to hold on to that power. I need to hold on to that and love everybody next to me. You know, and you know, at the same time, don't buy into the fears. Now, I say this because I know that that's how I feel and that's how I need to be. But at the same time, I go right back into that fear because after we hang up from this, probably I'm going to get back on my couch and I'm going to watch CNN or
Yeah.
Fox News. And I'm going to start feeling the need to buy a gun again. And I'm going to start feeling the need of like, you know what? I know that these are my brothers and sisters, but I need to be able to protect myself and my family. If I'm out and about and something happens, I want to be able to shoot back.
You
I'm
know, I'm glad.
fighting. I'm
Yeah,
fighting that. You know,
you're
because it's
you're
like, why? That's my brother. You
you
know, I
know.
have to shoot my brother.
Well,
You know.
We are all susceptible to the energy play that's happening in this at this time across the planet. And again, it's not just happening here in the United States and in Syria, or Turkey or Iran or Iraq, which, Turkey just went in and invaded Iraq. It's like, what's going on? What's happening? This is the energy play. And I'm so glad you brought up that the other day you felt good, because I got to tell you, for a couple of days there, I was so freaking happy. I was like feeling like euphoric. I was positive. In fact, even my mom says kind of scary how positive I was. And it's like I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but on the third day of feeling this euphoric energy, it all of a sudden went away, and I was like, okay, what was that? And I got to tell you, it's like they give you a reprieve. And I just wrote about this last night on my blog at psychicsolana.com, Ask Solana. And it's my blog. And I just wrote about this last night about how I was feeling so good. And then all of a sudden it was just like it hit me. It was like had that moment of, oh my God. They were really putting out this energy that made you want to feel like everything was going to be okay. Like even war is okay. It's an end to a means, and so it's all right. Um, and it pissed me off. I got to tell you, it made me mad, because then I was like, well, hang on a minute. I want to feel like that euphoric. I want that peace. That must be what it's like to feel peaceful. Because you're just happy, you're euphoric, you want to do more. And then boom, I just slammed. It was gone. It was over yesterday. And so I wrote on my blog, I was like, okay, back to reality. Okay, because it was like that's the energy play that they're putting out there. They're going to put you out in a mood where everything's okay. People are riding their bikes, they're gardening, life goes on.
Yeah.
But then they slam you with all this propaganda, this fight or flight kind of energy. To where you want to, fight. You want to, you're going to stand your ground, and you're going to, take on whatever arms you need to take on in order to defend yourself, or you're going to run, or they just want to run. Where are you going to go? That's
Yeah,
what I got.
it's important to know, because this is where what's right and what's wrong, and really us as human natures, we're on that balancing act of right and wrong every single day with everything that we do, whether we're at work or whether we're driving in the car and somebody tells you or not tells, but rides your butt and you get mad. It's all in how you react to stuff like that. We're all in a balancing act, and we're not always balanced. We're usually too happy or too mad. And even yesterday I lost my cool in a personal situation. What's right and what's wrong, and that's up to us to keep that balance alive. And that's something that we need to remember in this situation. And we're dealing with political fears right now. We're dealing with them needing us to be afraid, because something big is coming. Something big is about ready to happen. I don't know what it is. I'm not a future teller. I'm not a fortune teller. I am just somebody that has common sense. My common sense tells me that they're filling me up with fear, making me feel like I need to arm up and have guns and have bullets. And let me tell you something, it's an illusion. And it's something that they're making us feel like we need to have, not because we are going to need our guns, and not because we are going to need to defend ourselves, but because they're getting ready to do something that when they say that they're doing it in the name of our defense, that we support it, and that we are there and backing them up and cheering them on. And all right, they're doing it because we feel the need to do that. We're backing it up. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you are aware of this, and this is not a conspiracy. We have entered World War III. Every country in this world has come up to arms and is fighting. Whether they're fighting with an ally or fighting against another country, they are at war. I don't know the purpose of it. Obviously money, but the bottom line is we have entered World War III, and we are sitting in a country that technically, compared to the rest of the world, is at peace. And we are not going to feel that peace anymore by the actions that are getting ready to take place. So we need to remember that we are susceptible to what the media tells us, and that we need to take everything that we hear in the media with a grain of salt. And we need to remember to use our own judgment and not be the sheep and follow the herd where we are being herded to. because that's what we are. We're U.S. citizens in a country that follow the leader for the most part. And perfect example, guys. And this is probably not the best example, so I said the perfect, but when there's a shooting, it's so easy to herd people. I mean, think about it. Had there been 3 or 4 shooters that day, instead of the 2 that it came out to be in California, think about it. All it takes is for one person in the entrance to shoot. And what direction are you going to run in when a shooter is shooting at you? You're going to run in the opposite direction of that shooter. He could be herding you into a trap where it could be multiple shooters sitting there waiting for you to get into that corner. Guys, we cannot do that. We cannot hurt ourselves. We need to step up and swim in the direction that we know we need to swim in, and not the direction that the fear leads us in. Because that's the important part to remember here. Now, that's a metaphor. And I'm using a literal thing, but it's a metaphor. We need to remember to stand on our own ground energetically and combat these things energetically. And if having a gun in your pocket and having ammunition ready to go makes you feel the confidence that you need to energetically feel confident with yourself and spiritually speaking, you being able to combat these things that are coming at us, then so be it. Whatever methods you need, but balance yourself, keep a positive outlook. Don't believe everything that you're hearing in the media, and don't hate one another. I think that's the bottom line that we come down to, is don't discriminate against Muslims. Black Lives Matter. This is another one. I know I'm coming off subject a little bit. Black lives do matter, damn it. But so does mine, and so does the Mexicans, and so does the Native American tribes, and so does everybody else that's in this country. Black people are not the only people that are being discriminated against. So is every other culture in this state. So is every other culture in the world. And statistics, statistics. The bottom line is we all need to come together. The division that we feel amongst ourselves needs to halt. No more division. We all need to come together, help each other out. If you see somebody that needs your help, regardless of their culture, regardless of their race, remember that we all bleed the same and that we all need each other. We don't need each other's hate. We don't need each other's fear. We need each other's positivity, and we need each other's support.
Most definitely. And again, when you start talking about people and the way that they view other people, you got to realize that you're not the only person here. It's like if I make a post on Facebook and someone has whatever angst against whatever the post was, they unfriend you. It's like they get so offended. They take it so personal. And I got to say, it's because we are really programmed to do that. We're all taught about the law of attraction, that, whatever you put out there is what you're getting back. I don't simply believe that. If whatever I put out there is what I'm getting back, then my life would be totally different right now, because I had a completely different vision than what I'm living today. From a young age, I had those visions of what my future was going to be like. And let me tell you, seeing energy my entire life, and again, when I say seeing energy, I had the life like the Sixth Sense little boy, where I started seeing ghosts right away. I like the age of 6 years old. I was started seeing energy around people, their auras, and oh my gosh, that's a loud truck going by, sorry. But anyway, seeing the energy play that's happening here is what forms your perspective. And so you're constantly being bombarded. Just think of it this way, like when the Wall Street had their sit-in. It was like I started seeing this energy just bombarding the group of people that were starting the sit-in, and it was disperse and go home, disperse and go home. And everywhere that group, because trust me, it didn't stop on Wall Street. There were sit-ins all across the United States, but they wouldn't get any kind of energy. They wouldn't get any kind of support because, again, they were just being bombarded with disperse and go home, disperse and go home, because that's the way the energy play goes. They want to be able to do whatever they do without any kind of, sassing from you. And so you're not the only one in this energy play. There are other people's energies, and the reality is that energy affects energy. So everything that they do affects us, and so we can either take it in and own it. And I know y'all probably getting that wind sound now too, but you can either take it in and own that, and that's what creates all of your discrimination, all of your racist feelings, all of your insecurities. That's what fuels all of that, because that's the low energy play that's happening here. So you have to be mindful all the time as to what your thoughts are, because we are very powerful people. Unfortunately, though, we are very that's kind of being that can be infiltrated. And so go and watch, Odd Thomas. It's on Netflix. It's a perfect example of the energy play that's going on, because even Todd, or Odd Thomas, thinks that that they have no control over the things that happen. Yet the movie definitely depicts that these beings can infiltrate your thoughts. They can create you to do things and want different things and say different things, and make things just totally off balanced. And that's the energy play that we're really in. And say what you want. I know my son doesn't claim to be psychic, and that's okay. He's very intuitive, though. Like most of us, we're very intuitive. But I actually saw a lot happening in January. It's like, New Year's Eve is going to be okay. We're going to be good up until New Year's Eve. But then January 2nd is going to trigger an event that's going to last for several weeks. Then January 11th was the next important date that came after that. And so we have to, be mindful of those days. If January 3rd comes about and you're just like, oh, I remember that we said, don't give into that, don't play into that, don't let that start controlling you. And then in January 11th, it's going to go by a couple weeks. But then I also saw the assassination of Donald Trump. It's like, we have so many people that are just angst right now, and that energy is just moving towards more destruction. And if we give into it and we allow it, I tell you, I'm praying hard for Donald right now. I am praying hard. I don't want him as our president, but trust me, he's just the distraction right now. They've already selected who's going to be in that office. But at the same time, I don't want nobody to get hurt. I'm like mother to all. I want everyone to, be happy and peaceful and just have a good life, and, not have any strife or worry or struggle. I want it to be effortless. And so I'm praying for all of us, because if we give into it, we're just going to keep repeating the same stuff that we've been repeating, and because it is an energetic war. I know it's very controversial, but check out Alex Jones here on YouTube, Infowars.com. Because he's been out here for the last 22 years, really, putting out there what's going on that he sees and he knows about, and it's all behind the scenes stuff that we all need to be aware of. Again, be aware, have conversation, don't get upset, don't take it personal, be able to converse. That's what has to happen. We have to be able to talk without conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. Without conflict. I think you hit the head right on the nail, or the nail right on the head. Dyslexia.
Either way.
Dyslexia Sunday morning. But, it's one of those things where, even now, yeah, as we're talking and I'm hearing you say all this, I'm still torn. I'm fighting my own thoughts, and I start thinking, I'm saying banning Muslims is wrong, but should we ban anybody right now? And the answer at the moment in our reality, the answer that I come to is, yeah, we should be really careful with who we let into our country right at this point in time. Not saying Muslims, but I'm saying if we are at war with a country, no matter what country that is, the civilians that are coming in from that country should either be told no, or let them in through some kind of scrutiny process to where we can analyze and figure out who they truly are, what their true intentions are. And I don't know if that's possible. I don't know how the inner workings with customs and how all that works.
But not only that, well, hang on. I got to cut you off, because we've already let them in. I mean, okay, here's the thing. We can't, in the middle of a war, bringing in refugees for the last couple of months now from this war, and 70% of those are men, not women and children.
Not just that, but did you see the meeting that, I don't know if it was held yesterday or Friday, but the woman that is representing the Syrian refugees to the U.S. government flat out said, I don't know how many are here already.
Right.
I didn't bring those numbers with me. What do you mean you didn't bring those numbers?
They don't keep track of nothing. That's why you can't vest anyone from a Middle Eastern country. They don't
So
have records like we do.
that's where you have to start questioning, what's really going on? Like what's really happening here? We are allowing infiltration, and especially if 70% of them are men. And I can tell you, I live near the the Texas Mexican border, and it has been seen
Mhm.
buses of Arabian people coming in with Border Patrol escort
All the way up
across
to
the country.
Oklahoma. Let me tell you, I've heard reports all the way to Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Someone I personally know,
yep.
seeing buses.
I have a lot of people that I know that live in McAllen that are going through these borders every single week because they have family that lives there in McAllen, and they are seeing it.
Right,
So what's really going on? And now before this, let's go back to the other controversial thing that just happened this past summer, Jade Helm.
right.
Um, Before that even happened, I can tell you some friends of mine that are active soldiers, and I won't say who they are or where they're based out of,
No,
have reported seeing Turkish soldiers on our bases.
yes.
Turkish Air Force pilots, Turkish soldiers on our bases for cross training. So what's really going on? We don't know. We won't know. Even when something happens, we don't know if what we're seeing is truly the truth. All I can tell you is, have you ever seen that movie Bugs? I think it's called Bugs, or is it Ants? The movie Ants. Let's not forget that we are ants in an ant pile, and that there are big ass grasshoppers that are trying to rule us and tell us what to do and put us in fear and make us do all this stuff for them and bring in all these nuts and berries and everything else for the stockpile of winter. What happened when that one little ant stepped up and said, "Hey, hold on a second. We don't have to put up with this. We're going to starve." But these group of grasshoppers that are telling us that we need to do all this stuff because they're huge and they represent a higher entity that we think is a bigger power than us, we must submit and become enslaved by these things. When they stepped up and realized, hold on a second, we are the majority. We can put a stop to whatever it is that we need to put a stop to. But when we do that, we need to remember that this isn't a war that we need to physically fight. We just need to step up and put the thoughts in our head that we love each other. And that might sound like a hippie move or something along those lines, but at the same
I love
time,
it.
that's where it starts. It starts with the acknowledgement that I love my brother, that I love my sister, and that I love every person in this world, and including my enemies. I love my enemies. I have to, because no one else will, for one. And two, you love your enemy, you take away some of their will to fight against you. You're eating at it. Now, that may not defeat them totally, but you are eating at them when you love your enemy. You are not allowing yourself to own the fear that's being put out there. And that's where we need to find ourselves right now. Yeah, we got some stuff going on. Yeah, we might need to arm up and protect ourselves in the event that something happens. But even when you do that, you're still buying in to the fear. And it's such a huge deal that I don't even know if I fully have an answer for the right or wrong thing to do, other than to say, be good in your heart, because none of us get out of this thing alive, for one. And we all need to remember that we're not immortal people. We're immortal souls, but we are not an immortal people. So all of this stuff can be combated energetically, and it can be defeated
Mhm.
energetically, because that's what they're using against us. And if you don't believe that, then stop watching the news and watch what happens to your mental state. Stop watching the
Right.
news. Watch what happens to you when you just live your life and you pay attention to your own problems. You are not watching current events, and you are not buying into the fear that's being put out there in the media. Watch what happens to your mental state. You will start to become pure and happy and balanced because your immediate world is not being impacted by what the media is putting out there. You know, I just encourage that with everybody. Just to remember that you are powerful and that you are in yourself. Not, and I'm not saying become naive to what's happening, because we all do need to be in touch with what's going on around us, but be selective on what you own as an emotion and be selective of what you truly fear and if you should fear anything at all.
Right. Because I don't think we should fear anything but fear itself. Fear is the motivator in all of this. All of this. All of this. All of this. Fear is the motivator. So if you have any kind of insecurities, any kind of doubt, any kind of fear, then that's what's going to be really hacked into and made you, make you pull all those dramas and traumas and actually activate them in your life. And so, by not owning it and really being aware is the key, and so that's why I do the energy work that we do. It's not just, again, I call myself a psychic energy medium, but it's not just about doing readings. It's about, God, all the energy work that we do. It's about being able to balance out the energy play that's around us. And so, we always encourage everyone to go within, to start there, because that's where all of this needs to go. And because, again, the beings that are infiltrated into our system are the ones that are really causing that fear to really be coming out in you, because it goes against your true natured self. It doesn't make you feel good when you are fearful. It puts you in a state of depression and oppression. And so those are two feelings that we should not be feeling as a human being. It goes against our true natured self. It takes us out of balance with the rhythm of this planet. And there's so much science that you can look at now that tells you about the energy play that goes around the planet, that goes beyond our planet and into our atmosphere, and how these things can, really be manipulated. Again, HAARP is a big one that puts out a lot of energy. It bombards us with this low frequency. They use it for mind control, weather control. I loved it back in the 2004, 2003 when I first started looking into HAARP. They used to list all of their patents on their site. You can no longer see those. They are no longer there because they put it out there. And because nobody was really looking. But then because they've been doing it since the 70s and the 80s when these installations first started going up. And so, when they had more people coming to their site, they took their patents down. But they listed everything that they can do. It's not just about, controlling the ions, which, hello, why do they want to do that? Why are they punching holes in our atmosphere? What is CERN all about? There's so many things going on this planet that people don't know about. They hear it a little bit in the news, and then it goes away because that's their agreement. They have to be honest and tell you what they're doing, but at the same time, they don't, feed into what their agenda is. Rather, they don't let you know what their agenda is. And Brian said he doesn't know what this is about. It could be about money. It's not about money, because trust me, these people have so much money that they could never spend it. Their next 10, 15, 20 generations could never spend the amount of money that they have. And I love that they have to put stuff out in movies. I watch a lot of movies because, trust me, they're telling you stuff. In fact, in the movie Knowing, told us about the Gulf oil spill 2 years, 3 years before it happened. They had it in the movie. If you watch Jupiter Ascending, they talk about what it is that their commodity is. And the commodity is not money. It's not oil. Those are just things that keep you in a loop. But it's time. Time is their commodity. They want more time. And let me tell you, we can go and take back generations how these families have stayed in power on this planet. And it's because they've been given the commodity of time. Does that make sense?
It does.
And it does, right? Because really, it's not about oil. Oil is just one way that they have been able to control the masses, because trust me, there are better products out there that can produce the same products that oil produces, but it's cleaner, it's healthier, and that's hemp, industrial hemp. And when they took away made it illegal and made it a classified, was it Class C drug, which made it, totally illegal. They took away all the products that came from hemp that they were already using. Trust me, the first car that was made by Henry Ford ran on hemp, was made from hemp. It's crazy. Tesla knew about the energy that is free here on this planet, and it just takes a few little cylinders to make that a possibility. You can now find that on the Kesher Foundation. They now have it to where they can set up home electricity cars, for electric cars, and they only cost $300, $400, $500 for you to already get the made product, or you can download the blueprints for free and make it yourself. And it runs the electricity for your home and your car. These are things that they don't want you to know about, but that, the good guys, because I always know that no matter what the negative guys are throwing in there, there's some good guys that are also on our side, that are in there getting this information out. It's just very, very tedious for them because they are roadblocked every time they turn around. Some countries trying to stop them from, producing stuff that's going to be good for the planet and good for us. Because not only do these particular products, supply and amplify your home and your car, they also emit positive, balanced energy. They certainly don't want that because, again, it's an energetic war. And so, like Brian said, we have to deal with it energetically. Do your own research, find out what's really happening in the world. What are all these things really about? Don't just be so complacent, because that's the programming.
Well,
That's
I challenge everybody that's watching this. You're being told by people in high positions, arm up. You're being told to get as many weapons as you can and as much ammo as you can because you need to be able to defend yourself. Take that energy, and I want you to harness it. And I want you to amplify yourself up and absolutely stand up, arm yourself. I want you to visualize yourself as arming yourself up with bullets. And I want you to visualize yourself arming yourself up with arms. And this is very important for you to understand what I'm saying here. Don't take me literal. I want you to feel like you can stand up and defend yourself and your environment, your family. I want you to understand that you are universally connected, not only to this planet, but to the other planets and to the other systems that are within this universe. It is time for you to stand up, represent yourself in this universal collective that we are in. And you are not going to take this. You're not going to buy into this fear. You can stand here and become a self-proclaimed warrior. And if you don't believe in gun rights, that's fine. Don't go out and buy a gun, but stand up and own yourself. Own who you are. Own who you are as a person. Own who you are as my brother. Own who you are as my sister. Acknowledge me as your brother. Acknowledge my mom as your sister. And know that we are all connected and that we can combat anything that's going against us. I refuse to be the sheep in the herd, and I refuse that you as my brother or my sister will become a sheep in that herd. It is time for you to step up and become the sheep herder, if anything. It is not time for us to run in the same direction. It is time for us, when we have a shooter amongst us, to spread out and attack. And I don't mean that literally, and I mean that energetically. And if you feel compelled in the moment that you are in a situation as horrific as that, do what you must to survive. Do what you must to make the survival of your brothers and sisters. Because whether you are alive in this flesh or alive within a light entity, you need to remember that you represent yourself and this universe. We are in a consistent cycle. We can consistently get reincarnated. We consistently expel energy and harness energy. It's a consistent basis. Fear is only a tool that is being misused and abused. Do not own that fear. That fear is designed to herd you. You are a sheep. Don't forget that. But you can become a wolf. Every single one of us can. And it is time for you to hold your ground. Do not buy into this, and do everything you can to help support yourself and those that are around you, no matter what color the sheep is, because sheep are sheep. Don't forget that. And let's not forget, there's usually just one wolf that's chasing the sheep. If those sheep turned around and attacked that wolf, not one sheep would die and not one sheep would be herded. They would still live their life, be happy. Don't forget that that's the energy play that we're a part of. You can stand up and represent yourself and not own the wolf that's attacking you. You can own yourself and become who you need to become to defend yourself energetically, family-wise, and it doesn't always take a gun. Because believe me, if someone enters my house with that gun, I will take him down without having to shoot back. And you all need to be in that same mindset. Be in that same mindset of being able to be powerful within yourself. And remember that you are universally connected no matter what happens to your flesh. And I said this earlier in the broadcast. none of us get out of this thing alive, guys. Not one of us. So what are we fighting for? Are we fighting for immortality in our flesh? Or are we fighting for a good experience while we're here in this flesh? Are we fighting for love? Are we fighting for our family? Are we fighting for continuance of a bloodline? What is it that we're fighting for? Why are we being herded? What is the point of that? So I refuse to be a farm animal. I refuse to be somebody that's going to just sit there and take whatever is being dished out at me. If you want to attack me, be prepared to be deflected. And I want every single one of you to be in that mindset as well. And it does not mean be hostile. It means defending yourself and owning who you are and not allowing yourself to be infiltrated by the energies that are attacking you. That is something that is important for you to remember. And that's actually how I want to end this conversation, because that's how we all need to be. You know, quit looking at your brothers and sisters in divide. Quit looking at them as Muslims. Quit looking at them as Christians. Quit looking at them as radicalists. If they want to burden themselves with hate and they want to burden themselves and create fear for you, you're going to let them get what they want. You're going to fall into the fear, whether it's our government or a jihadist or whoever that's trying to put you in fear. Are you going to let them get what they want out of that? Absolutely not. Stand on your own 2 feet. Become the wolf in the sheep pack. Don't be herded, and just own it and be full of love. That's the most important piece.
It really is, because again, our perception can be swayed. Our energy can be infiltrated. And so, I believe that that's the key that we have missed for generations now. We've not been taught about who we are, about how powerful our energy together really is. We've been caused to be separate. We've been, separatism, no matter what religion, no matter what group, no matter what your affiliation, it's designed to keep everyone separate. And that's where we got to, put a stop to it all. You can be you and I can be me, and, as individuals, but then energetically is where we all come together. That's how we are all one, energetically. We certainly don't look all alike, so it's energy, and the energy is within us all. And so, we encourage you to go to highersourceinternational.com/media page, and find your own true power from within. Grasp that energy that Brian's talking about that gives you the ability to stand up and, take control of the energy play that's around you. And that's by getting in touch with your chakra system. Because again, if we don't change something from within, then we're going to be repeating the same loop of negativity over and over and over again. That's their agenda, to keep their, energies being fed with our low vibrations. So we need to, raise your vibration, as they say, and come together and know that you're not alone, that there are so many of us in that energy play that are understanding and welcoming and encouraging everyone to empower themselves. And so you can also go to Psychic Solana .com/ask Solana. That's my blog, and I've listed all of the links to the Kesher Foundation that give you the ability to create your own energy. And we talk about the prophecies that were received also for January. So pay attention to what happens in January, but be at the same time, be of the mindset that you are only being aware. You're not feeding into the fear. Okay, that's where we got to leave it, because you've got to be aware. And it's like there's a post going around Facebook not too long ago that said, my need to know is conflicting with my need to remain sane. And that's, again, part of the energy play that's out there. It's like, people, do you really want to know? No, people don't want to know, but that's because they're programmed. So be aware of the energy play, be aware of your thoughts, and just be aware of what's going on around you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut it goodbye. I appreciate everyone who's been coming in. We've been watching the viewer count go up, so we appreciate everyone for coming in and listening. And just really know to do your part, and that is to know that you're an energetic being, that you are more powerful than you think.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been a fun chat, and this is one of those things that I'm glad that we can sit down and have this conversation and hone in. And I encourage all of you to tune in when we have these live chats, because we're going to bring up things that are happening in current events, and we're here to remind you not to feed into those fears. So don't feed the bears in the wild, because they'll become dependent on it. Don't feed your fears for the
Right.
same exact reason. So
Exactly.
much love to all of you, and remember to spread love and not hate, and just keep trucking, guys. Just do the
That's
best
it.
you can, and remember to live your life to the fullest. Live your life like it's your last day to live it. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to live my last days in fears. So that if an asteroid were to hit tomorrow or something tragic were to happen tomorrow, I want to know that I did everything I could to make this place the best place that it could be. And
Exactly.
I encourage all of you to be the same exact way.
Right. Because trust me, if war is going to break out tomorrow, you have no control over that. So it's like only you can keep control is the energy play around you and how you respond. So don't feed the fear. Don't do the fight or flight. Just stand your ground. Know how powerful you are. And hopefully we'll see y'all back next year Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Come back, bring your coffee. Join us in the conversation. All right. So, go check us out over at Facebook, also the Paranormal Psychic Network. That's where you're going to get the links to come join us in the Google Hangout during the live recording. So be sure and come over to Facebook and follow us over there so you can get the links to come on in. All right. So, Brian, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks
Okay.
again. All right. And bye-bye.